With Matt Riddle having heat for his comments about Roman Reigns and Ric Flair saying he has not talked to Tony Khan about AEW, this is Wrestling Up. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for August 31st. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. On his 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff noted the growth of AEW, saying the promotion will eventually close the gap with WWE in regards to international distribution. I think it already has been a watershed moment for AEW, no doubt about it. AEW has the momentum in their corner, and if they keep doing what they're doing, I think AEW is well on its way to being legitimate competition for WWE. I didn't think I'd ever really hear myself say that, and they've got a long way to go. Let's keep things in context. If you look at WWE's business footprint, their revenue, where they are, who they are, and what they are, it's hard to realistically, objectively say AEW is competition right now, in the sense of revenue, distribution, and all of that. But domestically here in the US, which is really the most important thing for both companies, the reason WWE is so successful internationally is because culturally they are recognized as great American entertainment, and that still has value around the world. American programming is still a very reliable thing around the world, and because WWE for such a long time has represented the US and the sport really are the product, they got a big jump on AEW when it comes to international distribution and touring, and all the things that go with their TV footprint. AEW is a long way to go before they can close that international distribution gap, but that's just a matter of time. The interesting thing about where AEW is at now, because domestically here the buzz is so high that AEW is going to be able to close that gap in terms of its international distribution. This is just my opinion. I'm just giving you my gut instinct from a fan sitting on the outside watching from the outside looking in. Based on what I know in my experience though, if AEW continues the success they are having, it will build upon the momentum they have currently. They're going to be able to close that international distribution gap relatively quickly. Once that happens, they become legitimate competition. Not just competition here in the US for the hearts and minds of the wrestling audience, but I'm talking about from a revenue perspective. With CM Punk joining AEW and Daniel Bryan reportedly on the way, the company is making big moves and could be seen as more than simply competition to WWE in due time. Speaking of AEW, they have run into an issue with their Full Gear pay-per-view. It'll be taking place on November 6th, which will be on the same night as UFC 268. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted, it's going to have the toughest competition they've ever had. It's scheduled for November 6th in St. Louis, and UFC is running Madison Square Garden that night, and they have a loaded show. There is even going to be a boxing pay-per-view that night, as this could serve as tough competition for AEW. With advertised matches for Raw this week not taking place, it was also noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that many last-minute changes took place. I guess the decision is that they're going to go with Randy Orton and Bobby Lashley, so they wanted Orton in there with Lashley, which took Sheamus out of the match. I did hear that Drew and Priest at one point was going to be a singles match, but when they took Sheamus out, Sheamus was moved and they made it into a three-way. There were a million changes during the day, and at the end of the day, none of the advertised matches happened. Following his WWE title win over The Miz, Lashley was engaged in a feud with Drew McIntyre, where the Scotsman came up short in their encounters. Speaking to Sports Illustrated, McIntyre said it was an honor to help elevate the current champion. I had an opportunity to help cement Bobby as champion, and to do that for a top-level performer was an honor. I'm extremely happy for him. He's someone that earned and deserves all his success. For now, Lashley is likely to meet Goldberg in the ring at Saudi Arabia for the WWE title at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view in October. As WWE is looking to host another draft, it seems Drew McIntyre could be on his way to SmackDown. The Observer brought up him being pinned in a triple threat match on Raw this week. After that loss, McIntyre shook the hand of US champion Damian Priest, with this serving as a sign that he could be wrapping up his time on the Red brand. While the next draft is not until October, this could set the stage for McIntyre to feud with Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Talking about this match, McIntyre told Sports Illustrated that it is inevitable. I want to set the tone for physicality personality in WWE, and I'm excited for the next story. That's what people feel and touches emotion. I'm looking for something good, and if it's Roman, I hope he's ready. That's something I would love to sink my teeth into, and it's something inevitably that will happen. We had less than a week together last year, but the chemistry, even without fans in the stands, that was real. Roman is my biggest feud since I returned to WWE, and I feel like I've had more matches with him than anybody, but it feels different now. The roles have completely switched, and you're seeing who we are as real people. There is something big down the line for us. When Charlotte Flair took on Nia Jax on Raw, many thought it looked sloppy as Mick Foley was left wondering what happened, along with many. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer explained, "They weren't fighting the way I heard. I don't know, it was a mess, it was terrible. I've heard people say that they were trying to work a shoot and that's why it looked so terrible. But whatever. I mean whatever. It was a really bad match. Nia looked really bad in that match, and I guess this is the new program for Extreme Rules." With Matt Riddle previously telling Bleacher Report that he could beat up Roman Reigns in a real fight, Meltzer mentioned how this has landed him in hot water within WWE. His mouth gets him in trouble a lot, including this last week. It's not like it's gonna hurt his push, because Vince likes him and everything, but he ruffled some feathers again with his comments on Roman Reigns, where he said in a real fight he could beat him up, and how Roman Reigns isn't a needle mover. Those were based on Roman's statements about Punk, which did not age particularly well. Despite being expected to show up in AEW, Ric Flair told Renee Paquette that he hasn't spoken to Tony Khan about a contract. "I can also tell you people who started rumors, no need to get into that. Oh, he's going to AEW. He and Tony Khan are friends. Yeah, we are friends, but I haven't heard a word from Tony. If he asks you, tell him I'm around." Hypothetically, if I wanted to work at AEW, I would go to Vince and say, "I want to do this and want to get back in the ring, and I know you don't like that. If I wanted to get knocked down or something." He would say to me, "Ultimately, what's best for you is best for me." While Lana is missed by many in the WWE locker room, she did get to see him pose for a photo with former co-worker Liv Morgan, as Morgan posted pictures of them at the beach with the caption, "My beautiful, beautiful CJ." Despite Lana's WWE release, the two appear to remain close, as we'll have to see what is next for the former WWE star. With fans waiting for his next move in the wrestling business, Murphy put out a tweet letting people know he was now a free agent. He posted an image which caused controversy, as some took exception to his perceived reference of slavery. One person wrote, "You could have chosen any other photo," while another said, "Yeah, this ain't the imagery you want to evoke, Chief." Many were upset over this post, which led to Murphy taking it down, as it remains to be seen where the former WWE star will end up. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.